everybody. Welcome to another episode of Secure the Seat Live. My name is Minda Hartz, and I'm your host. It's not about getting your seat at the table, but it's what you do with that seat once you get there. And so this is a show that we talk about all those things that you need to secure your seat at the table. I hope you're feeling well. I know this is our second week back from taking a mini hiatus for the summer. So I hope that you've had a chance to go back and rewatch things because, as you know, sometimes when you hear it the first time, it hits different the second, third, fourth, and fifth. So today is no different. I'm really excited about today. But how was your weekend? Did you get into anything exciting? Drop it in the chat. Let us know how you're feeling. You could be anywhere on the internet and you're here with us. So I don't take that lightly. I hope that you're also taking good care of yourself because there's so many things going on in the world. So I hope you're still being safe. I hope you're still washing your hands. I hope you're still doing all the things. Now I'm told we need to wear long sleeves and shirts, whatever it is that you need to be doing for you and your loved ones. I hope that you're doing that because let's try to stay as healthy as we can going into this fall season. But again, thank you for all of your support over the years. I just want to point out really quick that pretty soon we'll be going back to school. And so if you haven't had a chance, make sure you pick up the memo right within or You Were More Than Magic. If not for yourself, for someone you love. We have something for everybody, right? Young adult to we're crossing the generational lines and bridging that gap. And so let's have those conversations with our young adults as well, because when I was on tour earlier this summer and I went to certain high schools around the country, the one thing that I found to be a common thread is some of the same issues that they're experiencing in junior high and high school are some of the same things that we're experiencing. How do you bring your authentic self to work? How do you have difficult conversations? Should I be wearing my hair straight or not? Some of those things. And it struck me that those were the same things that we question as adults. So we want to make sure that we're pouring into them so that they know that they are already more than magic. They can show up and be who they need to be for themselves right now. So you can buy all those books wherever your favorite books are sold. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And today is a really special episode for me today because I have fangirled Susan for a very long time. Before I even had a chance to meet her, I included her in a chapter in my book, The Memo, Say My Name, because at the time, and still it's not enough, there are Black women in corporate America, in entrepreneurship, in the world doing amazing things, and they don't always get their names put out on the magazines like some of our white counterparts that are women. And so I wanted to make sure that we highlight those people. And Susan has been a supporter of mine. I can text her, call her whenever I need something, and she's always just supportive. And even when I don't, even if it's just a Beyonce thing that we need to discuss, but she's always been just a really strong supporter of my work. And it means so much to me because having people who blaze the trail before you that see you and pull up a chair for you means everything. And so she is an executive, a former executive. She is a consultant. She secures many seats. So if you're not familiar with her work, you're going to find out today. But you should know my friend today. So without further ado, I'm going to bring Susan Chapman-Hughes to the stage.
Hey, Minda.
How are you, Susan?
I'm doing great. It's great to see you.
It's great to see you too. You know, when I first wrote the memo and I did not know you personally, just in my head, I never guessed that we would at some time have a real relationship. That was my hope, but but thank you.
Look, one of the things that I always appreciate about you is that you put what you want out into the universe verbally. And I think that's such a great thing for people to do. And so you put it out in the universe, but it was really easy because you're wonderful. And so I'm happy to be able to call you friend.
Thank you so much. And for those who may not know about your history in the working world, tell us just a little bit more about you and all the wonderful things that you've done and that you will do in the future.
It's so funny. I probably have the most different career path of most executives that people have ever seen, because when I was younger, I had no idea what I wanted to be. And so my life has taken me in all these different places. But essentially, for the last several years, I've been an executive focused on digital transformation and operations, P&L turnarounds, and workplace. So it's given me this unique position to be able to interact with lots of people, to grow leaders and to help businesses transform and serve the customer and client experience. I also have had the wonderful opportunity to sit on corporate boards for the last several years. And so I am now on my third board. I currently serve on two boards. I'm on the board of Potbelly Corporate, Potbelly was my first board. I'm on the board of Smuckers and Toast. So people always give me a hard time about the food centrality in my boards, but I promise you it hasn't been on purpose.
I love it. And you know what? There used to be a time period where Potbelly sandwiches had me in a chokehold when I lived in.
We all.
So I don't see them as much now that I'm in LA, but when I was in New York, I would definitely try to get one every now and then. So, but what I'm having you speak on today, we could have talked about so many things, but I wanted to talk about board seats, because we talk about seats at the table, but it's also very important that we talk about having a board seat. And I know so many of our viewers and listeners are interested in how do they get that seat. And I don't think there's enough information out there on what that really looks like for us as women of color. So we'll start here first, Susan. In your opinion, why is it important for women of color to either hold a nonprofit or a for-profit board seat?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think for Black women in particular, it's a wonderful way to develop your skills. And let me just give you a couple of examples. So I remember having a mentor tell me years ago, she's like, you know what, you really do very well in environments that are like top down, where decisions that are made, everybody just goes and executes. And, you know, you kind of love that. But she's like, most of the world is actually operates through consensus. And you kind of suck at that because you're not good at always wanting to make sure everybody's voice is heard. And so I think you got to work on that. And I was like, you know what, that's probably, you know, fair feedback. I'm an engineer by training. And so, you know, we tend to like want to go A to Z and just be done with it. And so I said, well, I don't want to do it at work because the stakes are really high, right? I mean, like if it doesn't work out there, then people are going to be like, what? You know, so I go work for a company that, you know, manages by consensus and I'm not really good at it, then, you know, that's not a great thing. She said, well, you know, you love to do work in the not-for-profit community. That's a perfect place to do it. Number one, because A, they're always looking for really smart people to come and participate. And number two, they're just happy you showed up. So, you know, if you do something good, that's great. You don't, nobody's giving you a performance evaluation. And so I said, well, you know, that's actually a great idea. So I joined the board of this youth services organization that had 17 board members. And unless all 17 board members said yes, nothing got done. And so I was like, I'm going to challenge myself to participate in this organization, set 3 big goals that I want to try to accomplish, which will force me to have to learn how to operate through consensus. And boy, it was hard, but it was a wonderful experience. I learned a lot about myself. And sure enough, the next company that I went to work for was a consensus-driven company. And it actually informed me so well that it changed my perspective on management and leadership and, you know, the importance of making sure that voices are heard across the board, but not using it as a paralysis to keep you from making decisions, but to figure out just how much you need to do. And it actually has helped me be known as a transformation and change agent for so many of the organizations that I've been a part of. And I love that. So that was kind of the not-for-profit piece. And of course, you don't do the work there because you want to, you know, just support yourself, but it does help you. The second piece for a for-profit board is, in talking to one of my mentors, he's like, look, if you want to be a CEO one day or really run something big, you need the corporate governance side of the equation. And so why don't you start thinking about, because I didn't grow up in a family where, you know, I knew nobody who was an executive in corporate except for one person, and that person didn't serve on any board. So I didn't know what corporate boards are all about. So it was a great opportunity for me to double down and learn more about the board process, why governance is so important, where I could add value to the process. I was fortunate enough to get into one of these like cohort programs that kind of gave you the basics and taught you how to put things together, like your board resume, your board bio, et cetera. But it also, most importantly, taught me to be very clear about which boards would be helpful and accretive to me, as opposed to boards I should say no to. So that's from the personal side of the equation. The benefit to the organizations is just amazing because, like, listen, if there are any groups of people who can solve problems, fix it, handle it, and still come out looking cool as a cucumber, it's us. Right? And so I think that, look, particularly as consumer preferences are changing, as the world is changing, and you're having this whole empathetic meeting business things that are happening. I mean, you name the issue, whether it's, you know, gay marriage or, you know, reproductive rights, or you name it, there's all kinds of issues where you're going to have both sides in the workplace. You've got to have people who can speak to those issues, who can represent voices, and who can make decisions in that environment in a way that will both be good for all the stakeholders of the organization and help the business grow. So there's no people better suited than women of color. And I've been an advocate for women of color to get on boards for a long time. Somebody calls me and says, hey, will you join my board? I'm like, nope, but I got 5 people over here who are great. Let me introduce you to them and help them through the process. So that's why it's important.
I love that. And you had a few tambourine moments in there, but we are those people. And like you said, for any companies or organizations that are listening, you want to have that diverse representation. If you're making decisions for, the population, then that should also reflect in your board. So thank you for that, Susan. And I hope you're taking notes, because if you've been thinking about it, don't talk yourself out of it. There's just certain things you might have to do to get closer to that seat. But we'll keep talking about this. And put your stuff inside the chat. If you have questions that come up, make sure you pop them in. If we get a chance, we'll try to pull some if we can. But the other thing I was thinking about, Susan, is can you share how you started to prepare for that board seat and a few lessons learned? Because everybody says, a lot of people, I won't say everybody, says they want a seat on a board, right? But so much I know that comes with that seat, not just getting it right, but so much more entangled there.
I'm glad you used the word prepare, because oftentimes you hear this concept out there of board readiness, right? And for so many of us, to the point of people talking themselves out of it, they're like, oh, I'm not ready. Listen, most Black women executives I know are already board ready. They just got to get board prepared. And that is around how do you learn the basics of what it means to be a board member, how do you prepare yourself for the process, et cetera. So for me, I got very lucky in that I've been a member of the Executive Leadership Council for a very long time. And before that was very much affiliated with the organization, and happened to be at the board meetings when they first decided to start the Corporate Board Initiative, which is a cohort process that they put in place to help prepare its members for membership, because they also recognize that we need more Black folks on boards. And so that was really life-changing for me, and really great, because it taught me the basics. It helped me put together my board resume, put together my board bio. It helped me understand what the process was, both through, you're going to go through your network to, join a board, and one of your friends says, hey, I'm on a board, the NomGov committee wants to talk to you. And if you had to go through a search process where it's much more onerous and interesting, but they prepared us very, very well. And it gave me a really great sense of confidence that when I was ready to step onto a board, that I knew what was up. It gave me resources. So checking out Harvard Law School's annual thoughts on what boards are looking at, what institutional investors are thinking about, what proxy advisors are thinking about. So that, again, when you think about the issues in the boardroom, you are prepared for it. The other thing that was really important is that each for-profit board, if you're publicly traded, you have to have 3 standing committees at a minimum, right? So you have to have nominating governments, you have to have compensation, and you have to have audit. And so the thing for me in the preparation of the process helped me think about where could I add the most value coming into the board, and where do I also want to grow my skills, so that as I think about holistically, where are the places that would be really great for me, I could do that. And so what that meant for me is a lot of people say, oh, don't join the audit committee. Don't join the audit. Because for a lot of years, audit was like a bad word, right? But I always tell people, look, if you can join the audit committee the first time you get on the board, do it. Just because if you want to know what's really going on with the business, you want to understand the business plan matched against the financials and the process that the company has to go through to be publicly traded and to engage, the audit committee is where you do that. Now, with that being said, all the action is in comp these days, right? So whether it's say on pay, or if it's just the way CEOs and executives are, a lot more scrutiny on how compensation is actually being done in companies, and you layer in ESG and other activities that are now being pushed for companies to have to focus on. A lot of that action comes down in comp. NomGov is always great because you get to see who's coming on the board. You get to be a part of doing the matrix of understanding where the board skills are. And more importantly, you get a chance to help interview people who come on the board. And so you can be that gatekeeper to really know if that person is a good fit for the board, or if you need to be that person that says, you know what, probably not. So that's how I prepared. And I was fortunate enough, because I had built my network very widely and broadly, that I had enough connection with the search community and others to bring opportunities to me. And that's really critical, because if people don't know who you are, now this is actually true for anything, if they don't know who you are, they can't tap you on the shoulder. So, being out there and being intentional about saying you want to be on boards and you want to go. And, now it's much easier because there's all these different cohort programs that you can join. ELC has one, Santa Clara has one, Herndon Corporate Directors Institute is another one. There's just a lot of them that are out there now that are they're all fantastic, that you can join and go through a process to help you get more board prepared.
Oh, thank you for sharing that, because it's almost kind of demystifying this board role. And to your point, I think sometimes, especially as Black and brown women of color, we'll tell ourselves, oh, we're not ready. I need 10 more years. I need 15 more years. But as we know, with the right network, with the right skill sets, we can bust through the glass much faster, but you have to put yourself out there. Shout out to ELC, because great organization. We'll make sure to drop the links there so that you can follow up, but they've been so supportive on my journey as well. And so I love what they're doing and how they provide resources to Black and brown executives.
The other thing I just want to also say is that joining a board is like stepping into a new place that is very foreign to you. And so there are a couple things I would tell you. We joked about Potbelly sandwiches having a stranglehold on us. You better love the product, right, that your company is building or doing or whatever. So, I'm on 2 boards right now. I love the peanut butter and jelly, right? Okay. My family loves the coffee. Like there's, so there is definitely a connection, because you're going to be eating a lot of sandwiches and testing a lot of stuff and doing whatever. Or, Toast is really great because I love restaurants and I love the experience of restaurants. And so being out and, seeing how Toast is impacting those, restaurants in the community, really important. So you better love it. Number one, make sure it's something that you enjoy or you're really curious about and passionate about, because especially if a board goes into crisis, you're going to be spending a lot of time talking about it. So that's one. And then 2, there's this thing like, and it's almost like, when you're taking a new job, there are these like unwritten rules. And so the questions that you ask when you are going through the process are really critical. And a couple that are really, really critical for me are like, what's the culture of the board, right? You want to get under who holds the power on the board. Where are the voices that really move the needle in the room? And how are you going to figure out how your voice is going to get in there to be impactful and fit in? There's nothing worse than getting on a board. I was talking to somebody the other day. They're like, we put this person on the board. They never say anything in the boardroom. Like that's not good. That's not good for you. And it's not good for us. So we want you to be prepared so that when you go in, you have the confidence to be able to do what you need to do in the boardroom.
That part. And I always talk about it too. It's like, it's not enough to just get your seat if you're not doing anything.
Right.
Right? So your voice is there for a reason. You're there for a reason. Don't question why they brought you there. All the negative things that we try to stories that we tell ourselves. You worked hard to get there. So I hope that you'll use your voice. The last question that I have for you, Susan, we could talk about this all day, but I hope that you and the listening audience, whether you're watching us live or on the recap, is that if you're thinking about it, make sure that you talk about it out loud. Like, let people know that that's something of interest to you, because there's so many things that I've talked out, as you said, Susan, and people say, oh, Minda, this is something you said you're interested in, or whatever have you. And people will remember that when things come around. But if you don't get out of the atmosphere, people won't know to think of you. But the other thing I was going to say is, I know there's a lot of misconceptions around sitting on a board that I don't think many people take into consideration. Can you just drill down into some of those? Like, for one, I know I've seen in the chat, pay, right? So sometimes you get pay on some boards, sometimes not. So maybe you can shed a little light on some of that.
Well, look, if it's a not-for-profit board, you're not going to get paid, right? Unlikely that the structure of the companies, that organization, you're going to get paid. For-profit boards have different structures, right? So a lot of times if it's a startup board, pre-IPO, you're going to get paid in shares. If it's publicly traded, there's usually some cash component and some shares component. But this is a long-term commitment, right? I mean, boards are not hiring you so that you come, organizations not bringing you on the board so you can be there for a year and be out. They're bringing you there so that you can learn the business, add value while you're there, but continue to leverage that over time. And so at least 5 to 7 years. And, some boards like to think about the horizon for their folks to be on the board for longer than that. And so because of that, there are minimums in terms of like the amount of shares you have to hold. And, you're not going to get rich being on a board. I mean, you might, but it's not going to be on day one, right? It won't be significantly accretive to your income. And also there are tax implications, right? So that I always tell people, especially if you're still working in an operating role, you haven't been a part of this for a while, like, please talk to your tax your CPA and your tax attorney, and just make sure that you're thinking about the way to manage the compensation the way you need to. I think the other misconception is that they only want CEOs and CFOs on boards. That probably was true before, and I'm sure there are some boards that still are like that. But business is very complex these days, right? And they need people around the table who can really help them navigate through the crazy waters that are there. So, for example, supply chain has been a really big issue over the last couple of years, and it's going to continue to be an issue. So more and more people who have deep expertise in supply chain are being tapped to be on boards because these are real big issues that people have to navigate through. You're seeing more and more boards bring on folks who have experience with ESG and others. So it's no longer, CFO, CEO kind of thing, because if that were the case, none of us or many of us would never get there because, I mean, there haven't been that many Black female CEOs or CFOs for that matter. And I would just say that it is a work group, right? And it's also not a process that is like interviewing for a job. That's really important because they are going to get into your business. Okay. They're going to be asking questions. I mean, you go through a search process with a search firm, they're going to go all the way back to where you're from. Because part of it is, will you fit, right? What's your character like? How have you cut your teeth, if you will? They want to understand who you are. And in particular, these days, now that there are activists around, activists will literally use anything, right? So, I mean, one thing, if you're going through an activist situation, they're going to do a background check on you. So you better make sure all your stuff is clean. You got to do that to get on the board in the first place. But I'm just saying, like, those are some of the things that, the unwritten rules or under things I think people just have to make sure they are aware of and not be surprised by.
I love that so much. And I'm glad that you talked about the tax implications too, because I was at a conference a long time ago and there was a Black male executive and he was saying that he took a board role and he got his, however you get paid, he got like this really significant amount of money but he didn't talk with his tax attorney. He didn't. So it turned out to be kind of a nightmare for him.
So, financial advisor, make sure they're all talking to each other because it's very important.
Yeah. So there's so much, not just enough just to say, hey, I have this board seat. But again, if you haven't served on a board at all, a nonprofit is a really good place to start. I know in my former life, I used to get asked to speak or asked to sit on nonprofit boards all the time because I come from a fundraising philanthropic background. Yeah. So I always had an opportunity to help strategize, and it really helped in many different ways. And so,
although I would say you don't have to join a not-for-profit board to get on a for-profit board, and they don't always help each other, right? Being on a not-for-profit board, it certainly will help you if you've never been on a board and you've served on a not-for-profit board for them to get feedback on how well you deal with crisis, how well you work in a group. But they are very different issues, right? Filing a proxy in a 10K is very different than a 990 for a not-for-profit board.
Right. But one thing that you can do is make sure that you're following Susan on here on LinkedIn. I know that if you're watching us primarily, we air on LinkedIn, but we also are on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. So make sure that you follow. We'll drop all of Susan's information, but she's always talking about really great content. And do you still have your show too?
We do have our show. We're taking a little break right now because we're going to come back in the fall. But I also am writing a book, which will be hopefully coming out next year. But it's entitled "Why Should I Follow You?" So stay tuned. Just follow. You'll see through all my social.
Awesome, and I'm sure we'll bring you back so we can talk about that. But congratulations, excited for that. And I just want you all to remember that you belong in these rooms. That's like, right. Don't talk yourself out of it, but get prepared. Right, prepare for your seat at whatever table you decide to, so that you have all your ducks in a row. Any final thoughts, Susan, on anything we might not have touched on? Just for
the one piece that I would tell you, which I think is applicable to everything, is to be yourself, right? Because they want to bring you on to boards because of the unique, amazing things that you bring to the table. And if you leave that person to the side because you're trying to like be something that you're not, it won't go well. So, my mother always used to tell me, like, don't send your representative to the table because eventually people are going to find you out. They're going to see the real you. So just be yourself. And if there's something that feels like it's not a fit, trust your gut. Like, don't just try to fit a square peg in a round hole just because you feel like, oh, they're the first people to ask me to join a board. You don't have to say yes. This is as much about what you want as it is about what they want. And you'll find the right board. It will, you will figure it out if that's the path that you want to take.
Great advice. And during the murder of George Floyd, I had opportunities. I think I might have even reached out to you, but where I decided not to go with a board seat because I knew that it was performative and I wouldn't really be able to have a true voice at the table. And I don't want to be in any space where I'm just, for me, where I'm at, I just don't want to be a face for anything. I want to be able to really make change. And I know we're all at different phases of our careers. And so I only want to say yes to those. And another point is that less than 5% of women of color sit on publicly traded boards. So they need us. They're looking for us.
That's right.
So that, and period. So before we get out of here, Susan, as you know, I'm a lover of grits and rap lyrics. And I have to first ask, how are you a grits eater? How do you like
grits? And I eat them with cheese, eat them with salt. And I'm an Eric B. and Rakim fan. So any Eric B. and Rakim songs I love, but I love I Came in the Door. I said it before. I never let the mic magnetize me no more, but it's biting me, fighting me, inviting me to rhyme. I can't hold it back. I'm looking for the line taken off my coat, clearing my throat. The rhyme will be kicking until I hit my last note. My mind remains, and I'm gonna stop rapping. But anyway, I love that because it's like, make them clap to this. It's Eric B. for president. All of you all should be president.
That part.
All right, I gotta bounce.
I love it. And you gave us, you know what? You had bars. You were like flowing. I felt it. So
nobody will hire me for that.
I love that. And we all should be president of our own lives, of our career. Go for it. We're rooting for you. And another thing on that note is we're all leaders. You don't have to have a title. You don't have to wait for your manager to give you another promotion. We can all activate our leadership now. So Susan, what's one piece of advice you would give all of our leaders watching on how to make the workplace better than they found it?
I would say be empathetic and lead from your heart because people need people who can do that.
I agree. I totally agree. It's not a soft skill. It's a leadership skill. So,
right. Absolutely.
Love it. I appreciate you so much. I just thank you for how you show up for us, how you led the way for your representation on boards are the reason why others are of us that look like each other are there too. So thank you for the way in which you have held it down for us. And we hope to make you proud as we sit next to you in the future.
Absolutely. You're doing all of that.
Good to see you.
All right. You too.
All right.
Take care.
You too.
All right.
That was such a great episode. I'm just so excited because I know that all of this information at some point, if you don't sit on a board already or you're thinking about one, that you'll think about what that looks like. Add it to your vision board. Think about it for your future goals, your 5, 10 year, 1 year, whatever it is to you. Maybe you learned some information today and you're like, you know what? It's not for me. But whatever the case is, we want you to have the information because that's all we care about at Secure the Seat. You can decide what seat you want to secure, but at least you'll have all the information you need. So thank you so much, Susan, for how you lead. And before we get out of here, you know it's a new month, and so we can't end without our affirmation. So I'm going to bring my partner in Shine up to give us some more insight about August affirmation. Hey, Mike.
Hey, Minda, how you doing?
Good. Listen, we both need a board seat, right, Mike?
Yes, Lord. You already know.
We got some good information. So what's up with our affirmation? Let's dig in deeper, dig our heels into our affirmation this month.
Absolutely. We always talk about these affirmations in a way. Oftentimes, the tricky thing about affirmations is we oftentimes view them and look at them about like it's something to come or it's something that we're striving for. But the thing about affirmations in general and speaking things over your life and speaking things into existence is if you don't get in that mindset now, then you'll never be there, right? If you have a vision of something, every blueprint started with an idea on paper, something that they could see, and then they built the house, or then they built the company, or then they built the business. So these affirmations that we talk about you have to feel them inside. Every time you speak something, you actually have to feel it, or it'll never come to pass. right? We talk about faith comes by hearing and hearing and hearing. So the more you hear, the more you feel, the more you think. Our August affirmation is, I feel my help coming. That's important. I feel my help coming. I feel like something is changing in my favor. I feel like my blessings are coming. I feel like favor is coming. I feel like this thought of gratefulness I have will get me to the other side. I feel my help coming. We're not just saying, yeah, my help's coming. Yeah, it's coming one day if this lines up and this person starts acting right and I get this dream job or this business opens or these people start to straighten up. No, I feel my help coming. I am in control of this help that's coming because I put in the work. I've reached out. I feel like God is blessing me beyond measure. I feel like good things are happening to me. I feel my help is coming. There's a difference between speaking something or speaking affirmation and feeling it. What did you say? And we talked about this. Your mindset has to match your manifestation or something like that, right? Everything has to line up. You can't be saying this stuff and not feel it. So the August affirmation, as you all know, is I feel my help coming. I need you to believe that.
Listen, put it in the chat. I feel my help is coming. And you made so many great points, Mike, that I also want to dig in a little here for a second before we leave is if you feel your help is coming, even if you don't feel it, you say it until you start to feel a little bit better. Because I often think about the words that I use. And, I used to say, oh, so-and-so is making me sick, right? And we just say these words and we throw them out there. And the more I thought about it, is like, why would I say that this person's making me sick or this thing is making me sick? Because the more I feed into that, the more I believe it, right? And so let's shift the perspective so yes, I'm not saying that this person doesn't irritate me or this thing doesn't irritate me, but what am I doing to refill that space? So if this is a negative, do I need to remove this out of my life? Do I need to be doing something differently so that this doesn't keep feeling this way? So I'm shifting my perspective. I'm shifting my posture so that my help is coming, so that my hands aren't closed, but my hands are open to my help being on there.
Those are amazing points. Studies have shown in the last 10 to 20 years in therapy sessions and sessions with a trusted person that knows what they're doing, and whether that be a pastor, a therapist, or whatever your liking is, using affirmations has taken people to greater levels, has taken them to heal faster, not because they feel the affirmation like everything has changed that second, but as they're feeling and thinking through it, they're reprogramming first their conscious mind, and then second their subconscious mind, those deep things that we learned as a child or we learned as a teen or whatever. So we're reprogramming ourselves constantly to new levels through these affirmations. Like Minda said, it may not be happening this second, but the more you tell yourself, just like if you tell yourself, I'm sick, I'm tired, these people are driving me nuts, and they will, right? Your words create your energy. Your words create your future. So you keep saying, these people make me sick and these people are nuts and they're driving me up a wall. That's what's happening around you because your words are your world. So that's why, therapists and pastors and leaders have used these in private counseling sessions and told their people that they are counseling to use these over and over because they are effective. We're not just saying this as some sort of magic pill and it's going to happen that day. We're talking about put in the work, the last 12 months of affirmations and put them on replay. That's what we want you to do.
Yes. And we have something really special for you at the end of August that we'll just tell you. It's around the affirmations, something special coming, and continue. Go back to January. If you forgot what some of them are, say them to yourself. And they're all helping build your mental hygiene. I talk about it in Right Within about mental hygiene, how important that is, because when your mental health is compromised, it compromises the rest of your body. And like you said, Mike, your words are your world. And so let's say it all week long, all month long, all year long. I feel my help is coming. And so with that said, we will see you all next Monday at noon or 9 or on the replay, however you're watching us. But we truly appreciate you. Make sure you follow Susan here on the internet. Make sure that you follow Mike, myself, engage with us. Let us know what you're feeling about today's episode, and we will see you next week. Keep securing your seat.